Hi everyone and welcome to C.A.R.S. Today I am going to be showing you three key things that stood out to me from the online download of the Maverick user manual. So for this owner's manual, it happens to be for the 2024 Ford Maverick, which matches my personal Ford Maverick. And I may start doing a series about these sorts of things because, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, it can be very enlightening to study the owner's manual and be familiar with it, even though it may seem super boring or dull or, hey, I already know these things. I highly recommend anytime you get another vehicle that you have never owned before, check out that owner's manual. Make sure there's not something in there that's a surprise for you, either a pleasant surprise or unpleasant surprise for that matter, and you might find some treasures. So that's what this is about. Okay, the first item today that I'm going to cover is from page 278. Now keep in mind, different years and versions of this manual may have the pages arranged slightly differently, so make sure for your own vehicle to check that page number to check your specific manual, because things can change from year to year and from version to version of the manual. Okay, so this first thing is page 278, driving hints, specifically braking in. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so for braking in, your vehicle requires a break-in period. Well, of course. For the first 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers, avoid driving at high speeds. Notice it does not specify what high speeds are, but I would say anything that is excessive highway speed. If you're just following closely to the posted speed limit signs, I would think you should be fine. But if you don't have to go fast, don't do so during those first 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers. The next thing to avoid is heavy braking. Obviously, if there's an emergency, make sure you stop safely, but avoid just tromping on that brake pedal. Also, aggressive shifting. So that would be like switching up and down with the lower gears for engine braking. That would be using the low mode on the gear selector, which is going to be more aggressively shifting the transmission. I wouldn't use that during those first 1,000 miles. And the last thing is using your vehicle to tow. So make sure it's broken in first before you try to tow anything. And then I recommend gradually working up to higher speeds as needed and following the speed limits, driving safely, all those important things. And then being a little bit more aggressive on the brakes and the shifting, and then of course towing. But bear in mind, these things that are good for the break-in period tie directly into driving economically. So once the break-in period is done, if you start doing some more of these things, it may not hurt the vehicle, but you are going to see that your fuel economy is going to be less desirable. Okay, during this time, your vehicle may exhibit some unusual driving characteristics. So be aware that transmission and the engine and the related computers for those systems, the whole drivetrain, are going to be learning your driving style. They're going to be getting used to each other, if that makes sense. And also, even the tires are going to take some time to work off the initial wax coating, essentially, that's used when they are molded at the tire factory. So be aware there will be some unusual driving characteristics. I didn't notice anything that really jumped out at me per se with this particular vehicle, the Ford Maverick, but I have noticed that for one or two other vehicles in the past. Okay. Next item on my list is from page 174, which is fuel and refueling. I'm going to focus on this paragraph here. For best overall vehicle and engine performance, premium fuel with an octane rating of 91 or higher is recommended. The performance gained by using premium fuel is most noticeable in hot weather as well as other conditions, for example, when towing a trailer. See Towing a Trailer, page 267. And then it gives some additional information elsewhere on this page and in the manual. So, I know I talked about this some in one or more previous videos. Be sure to check out my other videos if you're curious. But let's break this down for a moment. So for best overall vehicle and engine performance, premium fuel with an octane rating of 91 or higher is recommended. Now that is for the United States. In fact, if you go back a page here to page 173 in the manual, it mentions what method is being used. The R plus M divided by 2 octane rating. So with that, that's the fancy way of saying this is the United States octane rating. 87 is what the vehicle will operate on. However, as we can clearly see here on page 174, for best overall vehicle and engine performance, premium fuel with an octane rating of 91 or higher is recommended. And when are you going to notice this difference the most? In hot weather, because that's when there is a higher likelihood of knock, and then also when towing. And worst case scenario, towing a trailer in hot weather. And go figure, people tend to tow trailers because of towing trash from yard work or from, let's say, maybe they're camping or they're towing a travel trailer or whatever. You're usually going to be doing that in the hotter weather as opposed to cold weather. Obviously, people tow things in cold weather. I'm not saying people do not do that, but it tends to be very likely that you're going to be towing something in hot weather compared to less desirable weather. So what am I saying here? It is especially crucial to use higher octane fuel in the summer with towing a trailer if you want to get the most out of your vehicle, the best engine performance, and to get the best vehicle performance without having to retard the throttle or retard the timing while you're driving your vehicle. Okay. Lots more in the manual, and I've covered this elsewhere, so let's go ahead and go to the next section I want to cover. And this is if you are towing your vehicle. Instead of towing a trailer, what if you need to tow your Maverick? Well, here are some key bits of information. Now, depending on what vehicle you have, there can be specific instructions. I'm going to start with my vehicle, which is the all-wheel drive gasoline Ford Maverick, and let's see what we have here. Okay. Recreationally towing your vehicle gasoline all-wheel drive. This is from page 292. You cannot recreational tow your vehicle with all wheels on the ground because vehicle or transmission damage could occur. You must recreational tow your vehicle with all four wheels off the ground, such as when using a car hauling trailer. Otherwise, you cannot recreational tow your vehicle. All right. Now, I get it. I realize not every vehicle is this way. Perhaps not even every all-wheel drive vehicle is this way. Especially like hybrid vehicles where there's not a physical connection between the front and rear wheels, that can be an exception. But in the case of the all-wheel drive gasoline Maverick, you cannot tow it with all four wheels on the ground. Putting it in neutral doesn't solve the problem. The reason I am so passionate about this is because I live in an area where there is a Campground of America close by, and also it's on a main route between California and Oregon and Washington State. And because of that, I see a lot of vehicles being towed behind RVs. And I am almost certain that many of those that are being towed are not being towed properly, and people may not realize that they are actually damaging their drivetrain components when they're doing that. So I'm quite passionate about it. It's something that I see very often, and I highly, highly recommend looking at your owner's manual for any vehicle you are intending to tow, especially if you are towing it with all four wheels on the ground. Okay, so for mine, all-wheel drive gasoline Maverick, just cannot do it unless I were to put it on a trailer. All right, well, what about the front-wheel drive Maverick? I'm sure many of you out there have a front-wheel drive Maverick, and there are certainly some advantages to it. So let's take a look at what we have here. All right, recreationally towing your vehicle gasoline front-wheel drive. You cannot recreational tow your vehicle with all wheels on the ground because vehicle or transmission damage could occur. What? Even for front wheel drive, you still can't? Even if you put it in neutral? Nope, you cannot do that. A lot of people do not realize this. Place the front wheels, in this case, because it's front wheel drive, place the front wheels on a two-wheel tow dolly. If you are using a tow dolly, follow the instructions specified by the equipment provider. Okay, great. So what is this telling us? Even with a front-wheel drive Maverick, you cannot tow it with all four wheels on the ground if it is the gasoline version. You have to have one of those tow dollies. U-Haul and other places will have those available, but just make sure you're not relying on putting it in neutral and think, oh, that's fine, it's going to work. No, you could damage your vehicle. All right. Lastly, and here's a great advantage for the many, many owners of a hybrid Ford Maverick. So there's a lot of information to go over here. Let's take a look at what we have. Oh, what are we seeing? There are some exceptions. You can go ahead and tow this vehicle. Well, how about that? With all four wheels on the ground. Okay, but how do you do it? Well, there's a lot of steps here, but let's see what it says. Okay. Recreationally towing your vehicle, hybrid electric vehicle, HEV. Follow these guidelines if you need if you have a need for recreational towing. An example of recreational towing is towing your vehicle behind a motorhome, like I talked about seeing all the time. These guidelines make sure that you do not damage the transmission. Note, put your climate control system in recirculated air mode to prevent exhaust fumes from entering your vehicle. See switching recirculated air on and off, page 126. Good advice. You can tow your vehicle with all four wheels on the ground under the following conditions. You switch neutral tow on, not just putting it in neutral, but neutral tow. Your vehicle is facing forward for towing in a forward direction. You release the parking brake, and you do not exceed 70 miles per hour or 113 kilometers per hour. Switching neutral tow on, here are the steps. Switch your vehicle on in accessory mode. Press the menu button on the steering wheel to enter the instrument cluster display main menu. Again, this is not just putting it in neutral. I bet most people have no idea of this, but that's why it's in the manual, and that's why I'm covering it today. Number 3, select settings. Number 4, select neutral tow. And are you done yet? No. Number 5, follow the instructions on the instrument cluster display. Number 6, fully press the brake pedal. Still not done. Number 7, shift into neutral. Number 8, switch the ignition off. Note, switching neutral tow on requires battery power. Okay, so more information is contained in the pages before and after page 292 that I've been covering here today. But make sure if you are intending to tow your vehicle with all four wheels on the ground, and then and only then, if it is a hybrid electric Maverick, then you have to go through these 8 steps. Then you can go ahead and tow it with all four wheels on the ground. And even then you have to follow these 4 precautionary steps. Okay, so what do I want to conclude here? Make sure you follow your user's manual, your owner manual for the Ford Maverick or any vehicle you have. Don't just assume, because you can be causing expensive damage that is not fun to have repaired. And you may think, oh, I'm just having fun, everything's good, I didn't hurt the vehicle, I put it in neutral, but you may be overlooking something important. So in conclusion, whether you're braking in the vehicle, whether you are wanting to make sure you have the right fuel for hot weather and towing, or whether you are towing your vehicle for recreational purposes, make sure that you are finding out what is in the owner's manual and that you follow that. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and have an amazing week.